The 2012 season is a season that will go down in history, mainly for the fact that in the opening 7 races of the season, we saw 7 different winners. And it was the usual suspects, names like Jenson Button, Sebastian Vettel, Mark Webber, Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso, and they made up 5 of those winners. The 6th was Nico Rosberg. He got his first win in China and then went on to be a world champion, multiple race winner and all of that other stuff in the hybrid era. But the 7th driver was a driver that nobody expected to be there, and some reckon he was only there because of some jiggery-pokery behind the scenes that we'll get to in a bit. So the 7th man, in the 7 race winners from 7 races thing that happened at the start of the 2012 season, was Pastor Maldonado. Now Maldonado had made his debut in Formula 1 for Williams the previous year, joining Formula 1 after winning the GP2 feeder series in 2010, with a record 10 wins in one single season. He'd also been with a shot of taking one of the available seats for the HRT team that entered F1 in 2010, but changes to the team's circumstances meant that that never materialised. He was also supposed to be the test driver for the Stefan GP team, but that never happened either. So instead he took his Venezuelan oil money to Williams in 2011 to replace Nico Hülkenberg. And Maldonado's 2012 season had started strongly, if not really getting any rewards. He was running 5th at the Australian Grand Prix until he crashed on the final lap. He retired in Malaysia while in the points, and then he scored points by finishing 8th in China before a puncture in Bahrain ended his race there. His teammate, on the other hand, Bruno Senna, the nephew of a former F1 driver, had been a little more consistent, having finished 6th in Malaysia and 7th in China already. But going into the weekend of the Spanish Grand Prix that year, the F1 world was buzzing at the fact that so far this season, 4 different drivers had won the opening 4 races. Vettel was leading the championship with Hamilton and Webber in behind, and then Button and Alonso were tied on points. And there was also some controversy surrounding the tyres. Both Martin Whitmarsh and Michael Schumacher had been complaining about the tyre sensitivity. Michael said that they degraded too quickly and added that they were like driving on raw eggs, in that they felt like that the drivers couldn't put any load under the tyres and that the tyre wear at the previous Bahrain Grand Prix was a total joke. But since the season was already so unpredictable, nobody watching on TV really cared. And Nico Rosberg said he wasn't too bothered either, saying that it gave an extra challenge to the racing, knowing when to push, when to back off, and it had just mixed things up completely. But Pirelli did listen to Whitmarsh and the Michael and brought a different construction of tyre for the race. Now back then, Pirelli bought the green intermediates, the blue wets, and then 2 compounds that the drivers had to use during the race weekend. So for Spain, it was the yellow walled soft tyre and the silver branded hard. For the other races that season, Pirelli had brought 1-tier tyres, so it was soft and medium, or medium and hard. This was the first time in the 2012 season that it had been 2-tier tyres, so soft, skip middle, straight to hard. This new construction of tyre was slightly harder than what they'd already been using, so the idea was that the tyres would A, last longer, and B, could be lent on harder as well. But what's a race weekend without drivers complaining about tyres? Now, qualifying was interesting because Webber and Button weren't able to get into the 3rd session. Webber was told to not go out and do a second lap because Red Bull didn't think that the track was going to evolve much, but it did. Something in the region of about 8 tenths between the first and the second laps. Button, on the other hand, was struggling with an understeering car, so when they put an extra click of front wing on it, the back wanted to spit out and he wasn't able to drive as hard or as fast as he wanted. Hamilton stuck it on pole, but after setting his fastest lap, he pulled over to the side of the road, eSport style. Now, Sam Michael argued to the FIA that they'd done it through force majeure. Basically, they said that Hamilton had done it because they needed to save the car or they thought something was going to go wrong with the car. And basically, what McLaren had done is what Aston Martin had done at Hungary. They'd not put enough fuel in it. They stopped Lewis to make sure that there was enough fuel in the car to get the sample in Parc Ferme. The FIA said, "Ha, no," and then dumped Lewis to the back of the grid. So everybody moved up a spot, so the man in 2nd position became the pole sitter and would be the one credited with pole position. So that man in 2nd that now became the pole sitter was Maldonado. The entire grid started on the soft tyres and the teams were predicting a 3-stop instead of the usual 4 that had been commonplace in 2011, or the, 1 that we typically see today. Maldonado got a bad start and slipped into 2nd behind Alonso, who took the lead into turn 1, and Hamilton had made it from 24th up to 20th by the end of the first lap. Easy to do when you've got the best... Oh wait, he didn't, did he? That's a joke, by the way. But Alonso couldn't pull away from the Williams, and Maldonado was just there saving tyre life, and the first pit stop was made on lap 7, as Webber ditched his softs for the hards. Yeah, I know, lap 7. Alonso pitted at the end of lap 10 and Maldonado came in a lap later, along with Raikkonen, but Raikkonen took a set of used softs, while Maldonado took the hards. Further back though, it got a bit leery as Rosberg overtook Senna and Grosjean tried to go through as well, but Grosjean took a whack on his front wing for the trouble. But on the next lap, Schumacher tried to close up under braking at turn 1 on Senna, but he misjudged it and he wiped both of them out of the race. At lap 25, Williams made the decision for Maldonado to come in and fit another set of hards. They'd worked out that with the way things were going, Maldonado would have been able to do another 42 laps on the set of hards, but he would still need to pit because, time loss was just mega. But because Alonso had already been held up by Charles Pic, Maldonado managed to undercut himself into the lead of the race. But when Maldonado came into pit the third time on lap 41, it was a slow stop and he dropped back to third, but because he was on fresher rubber than Raikkonen, he was able to catch up. Alonso pitted on lap 45 and Raikkonen led 2 laps before being overtaken by Maldonado on track. In the final stint, Alonso was on fresher tyres and was able to catch up to within a second of the Williams, but then dirty air happened. Maldonado was slowing down to preserve tyre life and Alonso was able to get in the DRS range on the main straight, but just couldn't get close enough. With just under 10 laps remaining, Alonso got too much on the curbs at turn 7 and lit up his rear tyres, and that slowed him down because the tyres just fell apart in 2012, and that gave Maldonado enough of a breather to slightly get away and get enough of a cushion between the two. Maldonado crossed the line about 3 seconds ahead of the Ferrari, giving Williams the team's first win since the 2004 Brazilian Grand Prix, and giving the now departed Sir Frank Williams a win just a month after he turned 70 years old. Now what's funny, and I didn't know this until I started putting this together, is that there were some conspiracy theories being lobbed around post-race that Pirelli had given Williams data and that Williams had used some dodgy tyre performance enhancing tactics to gift Frank the win for his 70th birthday. And this was all part of a bigger theory that instead of the best team and driver winning on the day, Pirelli was basically holding a lottery and whoever won the lottery would get a better set of tyres than everybody else so that they would win in some sort of WWF predetermined winner situation. Because in the minds of the conspiracy theorists, having another Michael Schumacher situation where one guy wins nearly every race would be bad for the sport, and Pirelli and Bernie were trying to save the sport in giving us what was then 5 winners in 5 races. That later became 7 in 7, with Webber winning the next race at Monaco and then Hamilton winning in Canada. So the whole Williams winning thing was believed to be a combo of this Pirelli roulette that just happened to be near Sir Frank's birthday, and some alleged money transfers between Bernie, Pirelli, and the Venezuelan president, Hugo Chavez. Now, some of the online comments I found, which I think have been translated from other languages, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's primarily translated from Spanish, given that Alonso was beaten at home, but either way, they're hilarious. Want to hear some? Chavez paid Pirelli and Eccleston to make Maldonado win. He's trying to get his third 6-year term, and a victory for Maldonado is a great advertisement for his government. Maldonado is also a personal friend of Chavez. Anyone who believes that the Williams car all of a sudden can win a Grand Prix without anything wrong is acting. He must also believe in Santa Claus. I doubt they can repeat the feat in the remaining 13 races. At the maximum, they will make some points, but at the bottom end of the top 10. This is proof that Bernie is working with the bookmakers in England. He controls the outcome of this circus. He wanted to please his old friend Frank with a victory for his bankrupted team. Special tyres using more than the 18k RPM allowed on their engine, and then Frank sent his own mechanics to burn down the garage after the race to erase any wrongdoing. Oh yeah, that was actually a thing, because after this absolute meme that Maldonado won the race, the garage burned down afterwards because the universe couldn't handle it. But anyway, my personal favourite comment. I don't know why Bernie hasn't hired Hulk Hogan to drive his cars in F1, then it'll be clear that it is rigged. Wrestling is still very popular in Mexico and on American TV. And speaking of Mexico, Perez will probably win a race to the delight of the richest man in the world and his sponsors. It's all about money. I think John Cena would be better in Formula 1. Jack Nicholls commentating on that on 5 Live. And here comes the Ferrari now into turn 3 and there's nobody driving it. Or even The Rock in the place of Esteban Ocon at Brazil a few years ago. The Rock telling Max that if he wants to fight The Rock, if he wants to take on the Great One, he's got to find The Rock in downtown Sao Paulo on the corner of Know Your Role Boulevard and Jabroni Drive, where The Rock will lay the smackdown on your candy ass, and if you smell what The Rock is cooking. I can't do the eyebrow. There we go. I think I got it. Good stuff. All jokes aside, this is, as of November 2021, the last win for a Williams car, and on the 28th of November 2021 the news broke that Sir Frank Williams, the founder of the Williams team, passed away at the age of 79. Now I know some people were probably expecting like the full story of Sir Frank Williams or something along those lines, but I don't really like doing like these kind of videos just after somebody's died. So I mean, when I say that, I mean doing the full story just after somebody's died. It feels like a bit of a, you know, an ad revenue grab, and I just can't do it. So I thought I'd just do the full story of the last win instead. If you have enjoyed revisiting this absolute meme of a Grand Prix or just had a chuckle at the conspiracy theories, then be sure to like the video. And if you want to see more like this, click the subscribe button and get the bell on if you haven't already, so you never miss out on a future video. Massive thanks as ever go out to the good folk of Patreon. If you do want to give me a monthly tip and join the people on your screen right now, you can do so by following the link in the description, where you'll also find a link to Discord and some vague directions to my social media. So until next time, I've been Aidan Millward. Have a great day wherever you live in the world. I'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.